One. All right.
Hello,
So,
hello,
wow.
Mercury.
Well, we are finally back. Our man is down right now. Hermes is a little backwards, but
Yes.
we're here. Yeah, it's been pretty hectic few weeks for me. Between eclipses and Hermes. I don't know how you've been feeling though.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I had like a ton of chaos going around, like the entire like pre-shadow, and then Mercury stationed, and I felt like it was like everything like slowed down a lot, like
Hmm.
I don't know, kind of got over this little hill, but now I want to be done and I can't be done. So,
Mm.
yeah, in a little bit of a slower boat than you are, but I totally feel you.
Yeah, it's I'm just looking forward to May 14th. I think it's just gonna like catapult the whole world back into motion when we have, yeah, Mercury stationing and Jupiter ingressing like on the same day. It's just gonna feel like a breath of fresh air for a lot of people, I hope. So yeah. Um yeah, but I'm excited for our episode today.
Me
Um
too. Me too. Yeah. Today is a pretty chill episode. I mean, we've
mm,
got good stuff to talk about. Also, did you tweet the link or did
doing
you?
it right now, yeah.
Thanks. Um, what was I saying?
Just this episode, what's in store?
Oh yeah. This isn't a super focused episode like our Dora but it'll still be a fun one to talk about. Kind of
Mm,
lighthearted, nothing too heavy. It'll be a good one. Yeah, we're doing a totally different day and time than we usually do
yeah.
because Mercury, our man, we have been struggling to get the time in to do an episode because our schedules, we live in very different time zones as well. We've
Hmm.
just been too busy and just like haven't had any overlap. But I'm happy to be back. Missed
Yeah,
it.
same.
Missed Mr. Ready. Missed you too, Cam.
I know, but hopefully when he's direct again, Stella and I are gonna be together a lot, so we'll have lots of time to make content for, yeah, for the series and maybe other things. We'll see what happens, but yeah,
Yeah, we are going on a road trip
I
when
know.
it
And
comes
I
to everybody.
cannot believe that we are almost 2 weeks out, like tomorrow.
I know. I can't believe it either. It's crazy. We have been talking about this for months and now
Hmm.
it's here. Like
Um,
time
yeah,
is
it's
surreal.
yeah, but yeah, well, are you ready to get started?
I am trying to share this link
We're
right
almost
now.
2 weeks out. Okay. Tomorrow. Oh,
Sorry, my
no, all
bad.
good.
The YouTube video
Yeah, it's okay.
is playing at the same time.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, like you said too,
It is always very interesting to see it live streamed while we're in the live stream,
I know
you know?
it is a little trippy, with the
Does that
delay.
make sense? Like
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
cool. Same
Um,
time. Is
but
that
all right.
all right?
What are you doing? No, I'm kidding. It's okay.
That can't be my computer. It's not.
Oh, I I don't know. Mercury's retrograde. It could be anything.
Sorry.
No, no, it's
Okay.
okay. There's
Okay.
It's
Can
not
you,
like it was going on for 5 minutes and neither of us realized. So,
right, yeah. Okay. Is that better? It was my
yeah, I
computer.
don't hear anything now.
Yeah, it was totally my fault. My bad.
No worries. Well, yeah, I think you were gonna start us off today. So whenever you're ready to take it away.
Yes, yes. Alrighty. Tweet is live. Come join us, everybody. Cool. All right. So today we're starting with, oh, before we begin,
Oh
shout
yeah.
out to the AFA. Thank you so much for letting us use your printed copy of Holden's translation of the Greek text for Rhetorius the Egyptian. Super, super grateful to y'all for giving us this opportunity, and I encourage our audience to buy their copy online. You can get it on Amazon, on their website, or in the in-person store in Flagstaff.
Hmm. Yeah, and join the AFA.
Yes, yes, do that too. Join the AFA.
Mhm.
Alrighty. So, chapter 49, page 29, the complete and least years of the stars. The
Mhm.
complete years of the sun are 120, their 12th 10. Of the moon, 108, their 12th is 9. Of Saturn, 57, the 12th is 4 3/4. Of Jupiter, 79, the 12th is 6 7/12. Of Mars, 66, their 12th is 5 1/2. Of Venus, 82, the 12th is 6
That's
five.
some good math if you're doing like lowest common denominator or whatever.
Is that 6 5/6? Did I get that right?
A
Yeah.
half and a third is three, four, six, two-thirds. Why did, but wait, no, it can't be because
Yeah.
why wouldn't he write that?
Well, because it would be 3/6 and wait.
A half and a third is 50% plus 33, 83%. It's a half and a third.
Is a half and a third is 5/6. Because if you
That's,
make them both
oh,
six,
you're right, 83%. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I can do other kinds of math. Fractions.
Fractions make sense to me because I can see them. I can
Yeah.
like see them in my brain.
Yeah.
That was, yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Cool.
83%, 5/6.
Yeah. Anyway,
Mm.
so of Venus, the complete years are 82. The 12th of that is 6 5/6. And of Mercury, 76. The 12th is 6 1/3. The least years of the sun are 19. The 12th is 19 months. Of the moon, 25 years. The 12th is 2 1/12. Of Saturn, 30 years. The 12th is 2 1/2. Of Jupiter, 12 years. The 12th is 1. Of Mars, 15 years. The 12th, 1 1/4. Of Venus, 8 years. The 12th, 8 months. Of Mercury, 20 years. The 12th, 1 1/2 and 1/6. Wouldn't that be 1/3?
Wait, yeah, because that's 3/6 and 1/6 is 4/6, which is two-thirds.
Oh, yeah, 2/3, 2/3. My
Or why
bad.
is it written
Why is it written like that?
a half and a
It's
sixth?
it for those who don't have the text, it's written the 12th is 1 1/2 and 1/6. Holden left a footnote saying that they didn't it's the third footnotes. That is 6 and 7/12. I was right. The
Oh
ancients,
wait, no, that was for the 12th of the greater years of Jupiter of 79, 6.5 into 12th.
yeah, that was the first one.
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh, they preferred to work with unit
yeah,
fractions except for two-thirds and three-fourths.
but
Why?
that's still 2/3.
I know. Why though?
Mercury is so fucking retrograde. We're like 5 minutes into it. We're
I
arguing
know. All that
half
matters here,
about it.
if you guys aren't reading along, don't worry, okay? We got you.
Yeah,
These numbers are just like the periods of the planets, like they make their big revolutions in
yeah,
these amount of years. Um,
yeah.
the greater or what were you gonna say?
I can just like really quickly. I don't know. I'm not really certain what the purpose of the 12th is. I've never seen that being used, like dividing the greater years into 12s or the lesser years into 12s. Do you know what the purpose of that is?
Well, I know definitely for the least years into 12s, it's helpful because it's like when you want to time in months, like
Mm,
Saturn's period, like Saturn will activate it 30 years, but also like every 30 months, technically you'll have like a mini Saturn thing, which, he says 2.5 years. So 24 months plus 6 months, 30 months. Same thing with like Jupiter. He
yeah,
says it's 12 years and the 12th is one, so 12 months. And that's the thing, like you can just take the minor periods of the planets, which are 30, 25, 20, 15, 8, 19, all those years that we all know, but just slap months on the end, instead of years. And that's the same thing as taking 1/12th.
yeah.
Um,
That's a great point. Yeah, just to reduce it down into a smaller time period.
right.
Um,
One thing I think is interesting though, especially with the taking 12ths of the greater years, it's, I guess, essentially doing the same thing that you have an equal but less potent activation, at that interval. But I know also like these greater years are used for determining the length of life. And for instance, like say Jupiter is like the guy that's supposed to give you and allot the years of life that you should live. If he's debilitated or cadent instead of being really strong and angular, sometimes they'll often allot smaller increments that are proportional to the planet's greater years in terms of the length of life that you'll live. Now, doing that down to 12ths is kind of extreme because often I think the common way to do it is like if it's angular and strong, that planet will give the full greater years. If it's middling, succeedent, then it'll give the mean years, which is the basically proportion between the greater and the lesser years, which are here. And then if it's cadent and weak, it just gives the lesser years. So I don't really see the 12th of the greater years kind of anywhere else that I can think of. Pretty rare explanation of that.
Yeah, and it's a pretty large period of time too. I mean, like even the smallest one for the greater years is Saturn's, and that's still more than 4 years, close to 5 years. Maybe it's
Mhm.
useful for mundane, right? When you're looking at like bigger chunks of time like that. I could see
Yeah.
a similar concept being applied.
Yeah. I mean, also, I know like when they were doing length of life calculations, so many of them did it different ways. And sometimes they could, from our perspective, it looks a little willy-nilly the way they're like, it's got a bad aspect. It's like a little too cadent. Maybe I'll take off like a third, of this value assigned to it. So maybe Rhetorius did some like really incremental modification to the greater years by like, I'll take off a 12th. So that
Yeah.
could be what that's about here. He doesn't say anything more than that. But I imagine it was just for these, specific timing purposes, which we're maybe lacking some clarity on the full usage of here.
Yeah, and I mean, Holden says in that footnote there, for footnote 4, the complete years of the planets go back to the early days of Western astrology, but they do not have obvious astronomical significance.
Hmm.
They are simply the sum of the terms of the planets according to the Egyptians. Now, that struck me a little bit because I could have like flipped that in my brain, but I thought that part of the rationale for the terms, like the Egyptian bounds, was
Was
the greater years of the planets.
nope, it's the chicken
Yeah,
or the egg.
yeah.
We don't know. Like
Uh-huh.
there are some theories about which ones derive their years from. Like for instance, Saturn's 57, which is 30 plus 27, which in zodiacal releasing is like the Capricorn plus the Aquarius period. And the other ones all have some other ways you can kind of construct things out of their other fundamental numbers. Um, so it's likely that maybe they were constructed and then it just so happened that they add to 360 and then they slapped all the bounds and just, reproportion them. And it's like, Venus is great in Pisces, let's give her 12 there and or whatever other things they thought about that. But yeah, it's they're highly connected with the bounds, which we know are also really connected with the length of life for directions through the bounds. So they're all interrelated, but it's still kind of a big mystery.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm a little bit inclined to lean towards, this is a little tangential, but to lean towards like the idea that the bounds are related to the fixed stars because they came from the Egyptians and the Egyptians were very, very focused on the fixed stars.
Hmm.
And I don't know, that's what gave them the decans and everything like that too. So I am a little inclined to lean towards more of a celestial purpose for the bound assignment versus like a mathematical and happenstantial, you know?
Yeah, it's they're definitely very intriguing. One of the things I do think is interesting though is that like when we take the 12th of 120 and 108, which are the greater years for the sun and moon,
Mhm.
like the 12th of 120 is 10 and the 12th of 108 is 9, and then 10 plus 9 is 19, which are the lesser years of the sun. But also when you add 120 and 108, and this part's in the footnote, is that's 228, which is how many calendric months there are in the 19-year like sun solar lunar cycle.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah. He also says that 120 and 108 are also important numbers in Jyotish in Indian astrology for their dasha systems or their timing systems.
yeah.
Um, like 108 is a really sacred number in India. So yeah,
Mhm.
big
But
mysteries with these.
otherwise, aside from that, I mean, that is an assumption. I mean, I because it says in the footnote, like Neugebauer's assumption that with that totaling up to the greater solar lunar cycle, I
Mm-hmm.
think that that definitely makes a lot of sense. Like I would never deny that. I think it's more than a coincidence, right? But it
Mm-hmm.
is still like we're still not totally clear on like why, you know,
Yeah.
or like
Yeah.
what the exact reasoning is for that.
Right. I mean, 120, it's like it's a third of 360. And then 108 is the amount of ninth parts in the circle because it's 9 times 12.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, there's really only speculation, but 120 feels like a solar value though to me. I feel like, 12 times 10, 12 months of the year, 10's just like a powerful amplifier I don't know.
I see what you mean. Yeah. I mean, there is this like divinity, this authority to the sun, right? And there is we use a base 10 system for like most math, but
Hmm.
astrology is base 12 for the most
Right.
part, right? And so like I can see how that kind of intersection is very like divine and solar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I'm going to just reread these numbers really quickly, just for clarity.
Okay.
The greater years of the, oh, also, I thought it was interesting that, I thought it was cute that he put the luminaries first and then followed by planetary speed.
Right. Because of them
Yeah,
bounds.
yeah.
Was that what you were thinking?
Because of the bounds.
Well,
Mhm.
I was just thinking because like after Sun and Moon 120, 108, you get the Saturn 57, Jupiter 79, Mars 66, Venus 82, Mercury 76, which all total to the 360.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I was just
Yeah,
saying,
I mean, I'm just assuming because he doesn't say anything about the bounds, but it's obviously supposed to be implicit for people who know.
yeah, I just thought it was interesting because like he goes out of Chaldean order, which I like. Like he
Yeah.
just kind of ignores that, which is cool. Like that he gave the luminaries. He doesn't follow the order of how many years they all assign because then Jupiter and Venus would come and Mercury would come before Saturn, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. It seems almost purposeful, that ordering of it, like to group the luminaries together who have their hemispheres, but then to give the rest of the planets just in their own group in Chaldean order.
Hmm.
But since you just said the greater years, I'll just reiterate the lesser years really quickly.
Yeah.
Um, the lesser years of the Sun, 19, the Moon, 25, Saturn, 30, Jupiter, 12, Mars, 15, Venus, 8, and Mercury, 20.
Hmm. Um, I have to say I did just look up something really quickly about this 108. And I've heard of this place before. It's called the Giant 108 Academy. It's this like website and this guy who does a lot of work with sacred geometry.
Mm.
And this is actually fascinating. I'm gonna put this in the link because this feels really important. Um, Basically what it looks like he's proving is, hold on, I'm gonna go back to it right here. It says that the sum of the three sides of this shape are basically 216 and 288 and 360, which equals 864, which is the harmonic of the sun's diameter, which is 864,000 miles. And
Oh.
yeah, honestly, it's really long. There's a lot of information here about like a decagon and 144. Okay, that's really interesting. But you know what? This stuff isn't out of the box, especially for the ancient Egyptians. Like, if you look up, I didn't know this until a few years ago, but if you look up the latitude of the Pyramid of Egypt on the Earth, it's the same numeric decimal value as the speed of light.
Yeah.
Let me get the number because hold on. Like this pyramid light speed. Um, yeah, the speed of light is 299,792,458 meters per second. The coordinates of the Great Pyramid of Giza are 29.9792458 north.
Like there's okay, yeah. Okay,
Not
so
one discrepancy, up to like 8 decimals.
uh-huh. And like you'll hear like Vsauce on YouTube has argued that like that's a matter of like pure coincidence. But like, is it really? But also, how would they know about the speed of light?
These
But
Egyptians, they had so much
that's
spiritual technologies that
yeah,
we've lost, and we don't even
uh-huh,
begin to understand the
yeah.
race and
I
the
was oh,
no.
I was on a spiritual journey out in the celestial spheres at one point, and with the aid of a little special mushroom. And I had this just like crazy, like sight unfold before me of like these like higher beings that were like blessing like humans with like knowledge of technology and the universe, and like something crazy happened and they started idolizing man and not God,
Hmm.
and then the gods were like angry and like took it away, and I was like,
Hmm.
interesting, like I wonder, like you can only wonder, but
Wow, I mean that's a
it was
profound vision.
yeah, I think about it all the time. I just had to share that because it was at the
No,
top
yeah.
of my mind.
Yeah, I mean it just makes us wonder, right? Like what did they know? Like that was not a
Right,
tomb. I hope everyone knows
right.
that at this point. It's not a big tomb.
I know. And like, I didn't hear you, but
Oh, I was saying they're like they must have been like big power plants of like harnessing like 0 point energy, like what Tesla was talking about, right? Like they were
yeah. Well,
big.
like the top of the pyramid had a gold cap on it that was stolen later by fiends and robbers. But it wouldn't surprise me if that was utilized in some way, like to
Yeah,
use light.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, they were so like everything they did was about setting up their temples and the foundations of their, spiritual edifices to be aligned with the risings and the heliacal risings and settings of the fixed stars throughout the year. Everything they did was
Yeah.
all about having everything perfectly aligned. How could
Yeah.
they not have known back then that they were measuring the latitudes of the Earth and using a 100 decimal, or what do you call it, a decimal system, and a hex sexagesimal system? I they had to have. They had to have.
Right. Yeah.
But we're getting a little tangential, but it's good discussion anyway.
It
Timothy
is.
Halligan said 120 is a third of 360. Isn't that true? Or isn't that the trine?
Yeah.
And that's a great point,
That's a really
especially
good one.
right, because we know in the Thema Mundi, like the sun in the diurnal sect is associated with the trine, and the moon in the nocturnal sect are associated with the sextile. So that makes a lot of sense to me from that perspective, Timothy.
It does. That's a really great comment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Also, 108 is only the moon's daily motion in degrees, less than the sun's movement. So like 12, the moon moves roughly 12 degrees every day. The moon's greatest
Oh,
period is 108. It's 12 less than the sun's.
interesting.
So yeah, there's another little element of that.
Yeah. Um,
I could I could play with number
no, I
pattern.
know this article though is actually I can't just like read it because it's so long, but I'm gonna encourage everyone to check it out. I'm gonna put it into the description after we finish recording. So definitely come back and check that out because it's like blowing my mind as I'm just like scrolling and barely reading it. But yeah, all right. So these are the planetary years. Very mystical subject. It's like been one of the oldest pieces of astronomy in like cultural history is like tracking what are the biggest cycles and everything, right? And
Mhm.
we're gonna do, yeah, you're gonna read 51 in a minute, which goes even further out into larger cycles.
Yes, I do just want to close on the in
Mhm.
terms of the lesser periods with this footnote.
Yeah.
The least years of the planets are related to their periods. The 19 years of the sun is the lunisolar cycle, in which
Mhm.
19 revolutions of the sun are very nearly equal to 235 lunar months and
Mhm.
254 revolutions of the moon. The 25 years of the moon are a recurrence period in the old Egyptian calendar, where 25 times 365 equals 9,125 days, and 334 times 27.3216 equals
Yeah, almost the same
9,125.4
number.
days. Yeah,
It's perfect.
there's that coming up again.
Hmm.
Um, the years of Saturn and Jupiter are simply their periods of revolutions in the zodiac. The 15 years of Mars are a recurrence period when Mars returns to nearly the same place in the zodiac, for it is slightly more than 7 synodic periods of Mars. The 8 years of Venus and the 20 years of Mercury are likewise recurrence periods when the planets return to nearly the same place in the Egyptian date. The
Yeah,
Egyptian date is important to note because it's just a little bit misaligned with
right.
our current calendars because we do 365 and a quarter
I think
days.
this is Fuck the Gregorian Calendar part what in this series now?
No, seriously, once again, fuck the Gregorian calendar. Like, I don't know why we have so far removed our time tracking system from the world around us. Like,
Because it's easy to just throw a leap day every 4 years instead of paying attention to the precessional shift of the brightest fixed star in the sky. But like, look what happened to Egypt when they did that. They flourished for millennia in peace. I mean, there were wars, there was conflict, but like,
but
what
like,
they did. Look at our world now. Like,
yeah,
just
no,
saying.
it's so true. It's so true though. I totally agree with you. I think it's really, I don't know. I think that society would totally function perfectly fine if we followed the sun. However, if we did not, oh wait, well, because now I'm thinking about daylight savings time, and how we do kind of change, like our timekeeping based on the environment's cues. And like
Mm.
for us to not do that would probably be more of an argument for a sidereal approach than a tropical approach.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, cultures have made solar calendars, lunar calendars, sidereal calendars. There's different ways to do it. But yeah, the Gregorian calendar is definitely not it, though.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. Fuck you, Greg. Ari.
All right, cool. So chapter 50?
Yeah,
Okay.
take it
So
away.
this is getting a little bit more into the ascensional times. So how one calculates the increment of the signs and the hours of the climbs, or the latitudes. So, for example, in the third climb, that is the climb of Alexandria, which was like the standard. In the climb of Alexandria, when the greatest of the times, i.e., he says from Cancer to Sagittarius, which, if you remember, that's the half of the zodiac where the signs ascend long, or have a long ascensional time in the northern hemisphere, becomes 210 years. And the least time of it from Capricorn to Gemini, or the fast ascension signs, are 150 years. And he's making an equation here between degrees and years. And there's that footnote that's obviously referencing primary directions here. So that classic time key of 1 degree to 1 year of life. And yeah, what you get is then both halves all the ascensions will always add to 360 in the circle, no matter where you are on the earth. And when you just take half and half from the fast and short ascending signs, they're gonna total to two different numbers, which each equal 360. So in Alexandria, it happens to be around 210 total ascensional times on one half and around 150 on the other. And what he tells you to do is that if you take those two numbers, right? So take wherever you are, add all the ascensions for one half, for the fast and the short half, take those numbers and divide them by 15. And what you get when you divide 210 by 15, you get 14. And that number for the greater half, the longer ascending half, when you divide it by 15, you're going to get the amount of hours of daylight on the summer solstice in that location. So 210 divided by 15 is 14. So on Cancer 0, summer solstice in Alexandria, there should be 14 hours of daylight. And equally, we take 150 and divide it by 15, well, drop off the 0. It's going to be 10. So or not drop off the 0, but 150 divided by 15 is 10. That's what I meant to say. So that means there should be 10 hours of night on the summer solstice in Alexandria. So 14 plus 10 together equals 24 hours of daylight. So basically what all this is just take half of your ascensions, take the greater half and the lesser half, and you add them. You're going to get two big numbers that will equal 360 together. And when you divide them by 15, that will give you the maximum and minimum hours of day and night on the solstice in that location. And what this allows you to do is essentially, it's a really handy trick. We don't have to do it now, but it's really valuable, I think, still. Like, I want to make a map that has lines of, latitude running across the earth showing what the hours of daylight is at that location, because that is going to be a super fast cheat sheet to just remembering. Literally, you can do the ascensional times for any location on the earth if you just know the hours of daylight that happen there. Because what you do after that is you take those numbers 210 and 150, he says, and we take 1/6 of the greatest and least times. And so 1/6 of 210 is 35. And of the least of 150, 1/6 is 25. And the difference between them is 10. And of this, you take 1/3 of 10, and that's 3 1/3. And that's going to be the increment that changes between each sign. By the same method, you'll know the increment of the other climbs. So what he's telling you here essentially is, back in the day, what you had to do is add up the ascensions for the greater and least halves, you can divide them by 15, and you'll get the hours of daylight on the solstice in that place. And then if you take those numbers and you just divide them by 6, right? Because it's already representing 6 signs, right? Because it should be 12 altogether. So if we take that half and divide it by 6, you're getting the average ascensional time for each sign. And again, for the greater signs, that's going to be 35 at this location. And then if you just move in increments of 3.5 downward, or from 25 up and down, you're going to just get the increment for the next sign. So 25 and 35 are the ascensions of Taurus and Leo, the fixed signs. And then if you just add and subtract that 3.5, you'll actually get the perfect gradient for all the signs. So again, this was really technical, but it's actually only like 2 or 3 steps, and then you could actually do all the ascensions for the whole planet by hand. And the math isn't that crazy. So
there's a clear pattern, like a very, very clear pattern that emerges, which is nice, because other math is not always like that. There's no, it doesn't seem like there's rhyme or reason.
Yeah. But it's really just, you take the 6th, right? The average ascensional time for each sign. You take the difference between them and divide it by 3. So in this case, again, 35 and 25, it's 10, and 1/3 of that's 3.5. And you just go beep, 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 and you make the list. And that will be your Aries, Pisces, which again are equal ascensional times, Taurus, Aqua, Gemini, Capricorn, and they'll ascend at those same rates in the same increments. And again, I don't know how many of you or us will be doing them by hand, but if you had to, it's actually easy. So there you go. For the future world, the recordings here, although I guess if we lose the internet, then this is gone too. But
oh man,
still useful. I really think everyone should at least think about, well, if you were only given a map with those hours of daylight, you could pull out all the ascensional times and thus people's circumambulations really quickly.
Right. I mean, like, I think that Catherine's course, like the title of it is so cute, and just like true, like astrology for the apocalypse, like how to cast charts by hand. Because I don't know about y'all, but if technology came crashing down, the first thing I'm doing is casting a horror. Like,
casting a horror?
For what the fuck am I gonna do?
You wouldn't just get her course? I don't know if the horror would work really well in that situation.
But her how to cast charts by hand. You can't. No, I'm not.
What you're saying, you would do a horror as to whether you would buy her course or not, or what you're doing with? What's the question?
Because if like genuinely, honestly, if something happened and we literally lost like the power or like technology, like if that for real happened, like that is like an apocalyptic scene that's happening. So the first thing I'm doing is casting a horror to see how to proceed next with like.
I don't think that's gonna give you clear information. I think the world will just be in collapse.
I don't know. Should I stay or should I go?
Where are you gonna go?
I don't know.
I guess it depends on what kind of catastrophe it is.
Yeah, exactly. But hopefully that doesn't happen. I don't know though. There's some crazy stuff coming up.
People have just been saying Lamau, facts, lol. Khalil Kelly said, if it's one thing we're gonna do, it's cast a chart.
Yes, exactly. Like, what do you mean horror is not gonna help? Like,
I guess I just wonder, everyone in the world will simultaneously be asking that question, right? So the transits better fucking show some chaos in the horror area, but like
right.
everyone will have a different situation. So I'd be curious. Right, ready? When the apocalypse happens, let's both cast charts and then we'll compare.
Will I be a war astrologer? Yeah. No, literally. Oh my God.
Yeah, no, when the book burning starts, that's when you know we gotta
You
take
mean,
Catherine's course.
yeah, you mean the book burning that's already started in Florida?
Hmm.
Anyway, we don't need to get too far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So, yeah.
hopefully some laughs to lighten up that kind of heavy ascensional chapter. But again, you know how to do that now if you sit
Yeah.
or listen again.
Yeah. If the apocalypse happens, the Mercuranians have your back.
We're giving you guys all the tools. Reddy's given us them since
While we're
freaking
hiking this
500
summer,
AD.
we'll teach y'all how to make a fire too.
The astrological survival skills. You need a
Yes.
compass, a match, like firewood,
And an
flashlight, and an
astrolabe.
ephemeris.
Yeah, an ephemeris is better than an astrolabe.
Oh, well, you need both.
Yeah.
If you want to do good directions, you need a good astrolabe.
You know what? I have wanted to like buy like a little computer. I think I would have to like commission some like computer scientist or something to do it. But like a computer that's only purpose is to calculate charts. Like
A little like a
like
DS, basically.
yes,
Like,
or like a calculator, like a math
yeah,
calculator, but that's for charts
yeah,
specifically. I would
right.
pay good money for that.
That's
Like,
what's next, though, to be honest. Like, just
right.
your handheld, like it's the new astrolabe. I mean, it's like, our phones can like do that, but it would be cool to have like just a super decked out, like wicked powerful computer ephemeris
Yeah,
software that just
that
did.
can get like everything.
Right.
Oh, that would be so cool.
I know. Next up is holograms, though, for real. Like
Oh my
hologram chart reading, like you go to the
God.
consultation space and you're
Well,
like
you did this
tapping
little
everything all
like
around you and like spinning it all and like you're in the middle of it.
VR thing not too long ago, right? And like
Yeah,
I
that's
feel like
we're
that's like
working on
pretty
it.
close. Like you're like getting there.
We're
Yeah.
working on it. Yeah, the Astro Hut, it is launching this summer. Stay tuned if you're interested in VR or had, any kind of headset technology. The metaverse is, we're gonna make a spot in the metaverse for astrologers to connect, share, learn, teach, meet each other. But also we have planetariums and we're working on some really cool ways to put this stuff in 3D in VR, which is really,
Oh, I would get a VR headset like just for that, like solely for it.
it's gonna be really cool. It's in early stages, but it's gonna be really, really cool.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
awesome. Yeah, I'm very excited for what technology has in store for astrologers.
Yeah, absolutely.
On
Um,
that note,
yeah,
are you ready to return to Mr. Ready?
yes.
Cool. Is it my turn? Yeah,
Mm.
51, page 31. The greatest years and complete revolutions of the seven stars. Saturn makes his greatest return in 265 years, Jupiter in 427, Mars in 284, the Sun in 1461 years, Venus in 1151 years, Mercury in 480, and the Moon in 25 years. The cosmic return occurs in 1,753,200 years, and then there occurs a conjunction of all the stars in the 30th degree of Cancer or the first degree of Leo. and a fulfillment occurs. But in Cancer, a cataclysm occurs in part of the world. So this is an interesting paragraph. These numbers may seem kind of arbitrary, but they're all recurrence periods for the planets where they come back to the same position on the same date. But these are the Egyptian dates still.
Yeah.
So I'm reading the footnote. Yeah, because in the old Egyptian calendar, there were only 365 days, but now we have 365 and a quarter. Also worth mentioning in this footnote, Kroll suggested that eplekeros, nope,
Eclerosis.
eclerosis, yes, thank you. Fulfillment was an error for ekperosis, for conflagration, which does seem possible because Leo is a fire sign and Cancer is a watery, fertile sign.
Right. The ekpyros is like pyro, like literally like it's an inflaming is like what that word means.
Yeah, yeah. And then Firmicus also in Mathesis 3:1-9 speaks of a greater restoration through conflagration or through deluge on that same point in the same area.
Yeah, you know, basically all these numbers are they are all really big old planetary cycles that even the Babylonians knew about. And with the sun is given 1461 years, which is also known as the Sothic cycle. Because with that actually small discrepancy of the 365 versus the 365 and a quarter makes it so that every 4 years there's like a 1 degree shift. And so 4 times 360, aka that little shift that happens 1 degree every 4 years is 1 degree. So times 360 is just around that 1461. And that would be so that the Sothis or Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, actually like resets her heliacal rising on the calendar. Because of that, it was called like a quadrennium or a group of 4 years. That has to do with that tiny difference between making your calendar 365 versus 365 and a quarter. And so like they actually tracked that like it would be a different ascendant every year for 4 years at the Sothic rise. And that was like, yeah, that 4-year quadrennium cycle. Valens talks about it in the first book, if anyone wants to read more about that, because it's really interesting.
Yeah.
But then that number of 1461 times 1200 is that big old 1,700,000 number.
Which it is interesting because later in the footnote, he mentions that like Ptolemy derides the whole idea and it's just like whatever, you know.
Yeah,
it did become very popular. The same kind of mathematical principle does become very, very popular in Hindu astrology.
Yeah, they love tracking huge cycles, like what do they call the yugas, or like those million-year whatever cycles. And like right now we're in like the Kali Yuga, which is like the bottom barrel of like the whole cycle, and like we're opposite like I think it's like Satya Yuga, which is like the truth age, when aka Egyptian times, or even those ancient times of like in Indian mythology about when things were pure and divine beings walked on the earth. It's just like huge cycles ago.
Right. Yeah, you can't I can't I know I'm not alone in this, but I just like wonder like when they talk about like the gods walking the earth and Hermetica even, like when you have an experience like that with a deity, like today it's almost like you need to keep it a secret, like it's shameful. It's something that like can't be trusted or whatever, but like back then it was like divine knowledge, like you were a conduit for the gods and that made you like incredible. But now it's not like that.
Yeah, hopefully that's changing.
Hopefully maybe we'll be the ones to help feel that change.
Yeah, all we can do is shift in here, and that's how we shift out there.
Yeah. Yep.
That's it. But yeah, I guess the only other thing I was gonna say is I am trying to remember. I think it might be Antiochus, who says that when all the planets conjoin in Cancer, the world is destroyed by a great flood, and that when all the planets conjoin in Capricorn, the world is destroyed by a great fire. Um,
I thought I heard that from Abu Mashar. I could be
I think
mistaken.
he says it, but I think it does come from a Greek source. I
Okay.
can't remember. I think it's Antiochus, but I could be very wrong. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's just interesting to bring up while we are talking about those like big cycle things, because again, it's highlighting that same axis, which, is the ascendant and descendant of the thema mundi. And if anything, maybe it's like the world is created with a flood, because life is born from water, the moon's in Cancer rising 15. So yeah,
I
just
wonder.
interesting to think about.
I'm gonna try and look for like a huge Cancer stellium while you read the next.
Oh my gosh, okay.
I'm
Just
looking it
find the
up.
last time. I know my ephemeris I think only goes to 10,000 BC, so might
Mm,
be
and you
although
can't.
all the planets were did all seven go into Taurus in 2000? I know six did. It was May 2006 and like six planets were in Taurus and I think seven might have been.
I'll look right now.
I know
I
all
think.
seven and the node definitely were in Aquarius in 1961. Or
Mm,
1960.
yeah. Well, I mean, there was
Or
a
1962.
huge Capricorn stellium in the 90s, like twice in the 90s.
Right, right. Well, those ones had the outer
Uh,
planets, but I know in 1962 it was Saturn through the moon and one of the nodes, I think the south node, were all in Aquarius.
that's crazy.
But
That's a
anyway,
lot. Yeah,
let me know when you find if there's a Cancer
I
still.
will. Did you
Um,
want to read 52 in the
yeah,
meantime?
yeah.
Cool.
So he inserts like a very practical chapter here after some really technical things. So stars disjunct with the lights, chapter 52. And this is also a really interesting chapter. You don't really hear anything about this kind of thinking in the delineation in many other places. So he says the moon being disjunct the sun prognosticates separation or inconstancy or alienation of the parents. I've seen that happen a lot. The sun and moon are in uh what's the word?
Quincunx.
Yeah, non-beholding signs. I can't even think of the word. Um, the moon being disjunct Saturn, I have found to be the cause of good nativities and of accidents and suffering. The moon being disjunct Jupiter makes ineffective, humble persons unable to cope with their daily lives. The moon being disjunct Mars makes moderate persons not rash, listless, and withdrawn from their parents. The moon being disjunct Venus makes graceless persons and unsuccessful in both marriage and love affairs. The moon disjunct Mercury makes quite inactive and rather foolish persons. And I say these things of all the aspects of the homozone and equal rising and equal powered signs. Um, so yeah, that last part is interesting because he's saying here that even in the signs of yeah, I say these things of all the aspects of the homozone, equal rising, and equal powered signs. So yeah, he's saying that even including those, I believe, if they're in a aversion, that's the word. Oh my gosh. Um, that disjunction causes these things. But the basic idea is like whatever, the moon's like anchoring your body and your psyche into your body into who you are. So if the moon is like lacking any connection with the sun, the separation of the parents. If it's lacking any separate, I'm sorry, the moon's lacking any aspectual connection to Venus, then it's like you can't anchor, you can't get any Venus into your body, into your life. No Mercury, he says, there makes foolish people, right? So that's a basic principle, really.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like if you isolate just the moon and you look at that, like you can say this about the moon, but you could also say this about the lot of fortune, you could say it about the
Hmm.
ascendant. I think he even says like um all of these things of the ascendant as well. No, no, he doesn't say that there. But yeah,
The
like
principle makes sense, though. I bet you can extend that to
right. It's
other
it's
things.
just that basic principle.
Right. It's like if Saturn represents your ancestry and your estate and your, um, I guess like inheritances, like whatever's disconnected from that is not involved with those things, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it's just the
So I
principle.
did find a chart.
Okay.
Do you want me to share my screen? I mean, it's
Yeah,
just
let me hold on. Let me let you do
stellium.
that real quick. Okay,
Okay.
you should be able to do that now.
So it's May 3rd, 2000, which is
Oh,
crazy because
that was when everything was in Taurus, right?
we're coming
Yeah.
right up on it. AstroSeek did not have anything um for Cancer. Doesn't
Mm,
for Cancer in the ephemeris. But yeah, and Mars is actually the first planet to step out of this stellium
mm,
before the moon even, which I thought was
mhm.
really fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got Pluto, Uranus in Sag, Uranus and Neptune in Aquarius, but then that whole stellium in Taurus, which
Mhm.
kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I love that though.
Yeah. I
So,
know someone who was born just the next day with Mars in Gemini.
mhm.
Um, and I'm he's studying structural engineering. So that's something. That's pretty
Yeah.
interesting.
I mean, this also fascinates me because, of course, what comes to mind is food, right?
Mm,
With a sign like Taurus, just makes you wonder, like, there could have been like a very significant change in our food and farming. I mean, this was right around when was that? Food Inc.
oh, that's a really good.
If it's this actual, okay, no,
Oh,
2009.
okay.
But yeah, but
But it definitely it did a lot to initiate major changes into um I mean, that Jupiter Saturn conjunction was the last one in Taurus for 800 years or 600 years, really.
Right.
Um,
And I mean, Food Inc. was just this expose about how like repugnant these creatures that we eat are being treated and like
mhm.
how poor these conditions are and how just artificial and like more, consume everything is. So
Yeah,
I don't know, it was years later, but it does just align with that principle.
yeah. Well, now we are officially in that air age, so we're hopefully putting our societal development to developing
Are we
technology and
officially
intellect.
in the air age?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that we had one more in Taurus.
Mm-mm. There
In the
was the
third.
one in Libra in 81 or 80, 82, 81, I think. Then there was the Taurus one in 2000, and then we had the Aqua, Zero Aqua in 2020, which
Hmm.
is the first one that's like air for good.
That's crazy. I
Um,
I must be mistaken. I'm still checking though.
yeah, I think our next one's Libra in 2040, and then it'll be Gemini after that in the 60s. But yeah, but
Oh
that's
wow.
another really fascinating big mundane cycle. Um, just the 20 years of the conjunctions, the 200 years in each element, the 800
Yeah.
for the whole triangle to turn around. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
And also, like, what more proof do people want that, like, they literally happen on the 20s? Like, it happens 20, 40, 60, 80, 2040. Like, you can go back thousands of years. They
Yeah.
consistently retain staying on our calendar on those years. It's like it's a
Hmm.
joke.
Yep. Okay. Okay. So they are in Taurus together, but the actual degree of the conjunction does not repeat in an earth sign. You were right.
When are they in Taurus again? Is that like in 2050s or something?
2060,
Okay.
um, yeah, 2059 too.
Mm.
And
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're ushering in a major change though, that's for sure. And like
yeah,
now to have Pluto transiting the degree of the Great Conjunction from 2020 and all we're hearing about is AI everywhere.
I
Um,
know.
it's just yeah.
Yeah. Maybe
Um,
never mind.
okay.
All right. It's my turn. We
Yeah.
are going to move forward a little bit in the
Mhm.
text. Do you have any comments?
Um, not yet. No.
Okay. Hey besties. We're gonna move forward to page 41. The topical examination of the horoscope, we're going to come back to that on a later date, but I feel like its placement here, we feel like its placement here just isn't optimal for the flow of
Right.
things.
It's also just gonna need its whole own episode or two or three to like
Yeah,
really read it all and talk about it all. So we're
yeah,
just gonna put that off for now.
yeah. And like more than half of it is like subsidized from a Latin text because it wasn't retained in the original Greek. So yeah, we'll come back to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, page 41, chapter 55, childbirth. In masculine nativities, the lights being in masculine signs and the ascendant beheld by benefics makes a favorable birth. But in feminine nativities, it makes an unfavorable birth, and especially if the lights are enshrined to each other and in masculine signs. But in masculine nativities, the lights trine each other, and in feminine signs, along with the ascendant, makes an unfavorable birth. For this phase of the lights is called gibbous. Jupiter in the ascendant gives a favorable birth, and if the ascending sign is masculine, it causes the father to be better born than the mother, but if feminine, the mother rather than the father. Saturn in the ascendant causes an unfavorable birth, especially in the feminine signs. Mars in the ascendant, especially in feminine signs, makes the birth to be sudden and quick, especially while on the road or in the bath. And they also say that the straight and the crooked signs contribute much to the matter of childbirth. The straight signs are those from Cancer to Sagittarius, and the crooked are the remaining from Capricorn to Gemini. Now, the moon chancing to be in the crooked signs and located between the malefics prognosticates an unfavorable birth, especially also when the malefics chance to be in crooked signs and bear witness to the non-angular moon. So, yeah, I feel like this is a pretty straightforward, really good little thing on childbirth. I mean, anecdotally, Saturn was ascending when I was born, and like my heart was stopping like over and over and over again. And it like was like a huge threat to like me and my mother both. And then like all of a sudden I was just like, whoop, like, hey world. But yeah. Um, I'm interested. I love hearing stories about like people's birth and like just like the act of childbirth or like a story about when you were born and like what happened and like what you have rising or whatever sign is in the 12th too.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very important. Even if you don't want to comment that, like I would love if somebody told me that. They're like some of my favorite stories to hear about astrology. I'm so
Mm-hmm.
fascinated by them.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll say it's been more than a handful of times that if I've talked to someone who's had a water birth, they had a water sign rising. It's like
oh,
fascinating.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's sad more people don't opt for the water birth, honestly. It's really elegant, easy,
yeah,
easier
yeah.
way, I guess. But anyway, um, yeah, so
I
56?
I thought
Oh,
it was one thing I will say, I thought it was interesting that the gibbous phase is
oh,
unfavorable for birth. Just I guess like too hot, like the moon is too hot. The moon is, I don't know, too wet, you know? Like because the moon is cool, moist, and as the moon gains light, it increases in heat and dryness. So
mm,
maybe that's why he says that.
mm.
But I don't
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe the principle that he was saying about why it's not good is because like in a masculine nativity, so like the birth of a biological boy, having the sun and moon in feminine elements is unfavorable. Um, but these
oh.
principles, it's like what
Oh, so yeah, that's actually a good point. He could very well be talking about like um the act of birth. I mean, like the nativity and the life itself, not just like the actions of childbirth. I was reading this as like difficulties with childbirth, like the act of going through labor or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, I think it's the same thing. Like
Right.
it's not a good time for that like for a male boy, biological male boy to be born with the sky being in, very feminine influences or nocturnal influences, whatever. Um, yeah.
Pretorius hates femboys.
Yeah, clearly. Sorry. Um,
Do
but
you want to
anyway,
move on to 56?
yeah. So yeah, and
Cool.
this will be our last chapter. So short and sweet today, which honestly, we've been live for an hour now, but we've just had a few really long episodes in the last months. Um,
Yeah,
but
really
yeah,
long
so
ones.
I know. So our last one is on the planetary days and hours, which fascinating chapter here. These are some of very few authors that preserve delineations for the natal chart based off of the day and hour of the birth.
Mm.
Um, so 56, the kinds of nativity is indicated by the day ruler and the hour ruler. So when Saturn is the day ruler and the chart is set for the first, third, eighth, or 10th hour, those born are lowborn, injured, and dying violently. So, and just a quick aside here, I'll say the numbers of what that hour is, but then after I read the sentence, I'll just say what planetary hours those are. So on a Saturn day, if you're born at Saturn day and Saturn hour, or Saturn day and Mars hour, which happen at first, third, eighth, and 10th hours of the day, that obviously to have both of the malefics presiding and managing, which are like the Greek words for ruling the day and ruling the hour, yeah, harms the life of the native, and it makes, like he says, lowborn or injured or dying violently. When Jupiter is the day ruler and the chart's set for the first, fourth, 10th, or 11th hour, those born are rulers, honored, and charming. So here with Jupiter day, we're getting this charmingness on Jupiter hour, Venus hour, and he says the 10th hour, which is actually the sun's hour. Um, but this is potentially a mistranslation of what maybe should be Jupiter hour. That would just make more sense because in the last one it was just Saturn and Mars, and in this one feels like it probably should just be Jupiter and Venus. So that's maybe an error. When Mars is day ruler and the chart is set for the first, fifth, sixth, or eighth, they meet their end from iron or fire, or the wrath of a noble, or the bursting forth of blood. And so these hours that he gives are going to be Mars day, Mars hour, Mars day, Saturn hour, or the sixth hour, which should be Jupiter's hour, or the eighth, which is Venus's hour. Or I'm sorry, wait. Mars is the first, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon. Yeah, the fifth is the Moon hour. Sorry. The sixth is Saturn hour, and the eighth is Mars hour. Um, so if it's Mars, Moon, Saturn, or Mars, then they'll have this deathly end, violent end, or being struck by a noble person. And the Sun is the day ruler in the chart set for the first, second, third, sixth, or eighth. Those born are illustrious, honored, friends of great men, and beloved of the gods. So this would be Sun day, Sun hour, Venus hour, Mercury hour, Jupiter hour, or Sun hour again in the afternoon at the eighth. Yeah, these portend outstanding nativities. Venus day ruler chart for first, second, fifth, eighth, or 10th, which is Venus hour, Mercury hour, Jupiter hour, Venus hour, or Moon hour. Those born are charming and capable. Mercury is the day ruler, and the chart is set for first, fourth, sixth, seventh, or eighth. Those born are effective, active, and well informed. So this would be Mercury day, Mercury hour, Mercury day, Jupiter hour, Venus hour, and then the Mercury and Moon hours that happen again in the afternoon. Now, when the Moon is the day ruler, and the chart's set for the first, third, sixth, seventh, or eighth hours, those directing important matters. So essentially here we have on Monday or Moon Day, at the first hour of day, which is Moon hour, the third, which is Jupiter hour, the sixth, which is Mercury hour, Venus hour, the seventh, which is Mercury hour, the eighth, which is the Moon hour. Those people will direct important matters in society. Similarly, too, in the case of the nocturnal hours, the ruler of the hours, is in the 12th house. It makes those eaten by wild beasts. That's fascinating. So if the ruler of your planetary hour lord, so say you're born on Mars hour and you have Mars in Sagittarius, but you have Jupiter in the 12th, then you're going to be eaten by a wild beast. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I as crazy as it sounds, like you still hear stories of that kind of stuff.
right. And it's
Like,
somehow that program is just evolving into something different in our modern world. Like maybe you're hit by a bus,
right.
or maybe you are killed in like a machine, like maybe a machine, like big powerful machines, are like wild
Mm,
beasts. So
yeah.
it's happening in another way in our modern world, that same configuration.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I
Mhm.
thought I thought that the Mercury day was interesting because I don't know, throughout this text so far, I feel like Rhetorius tends to give Mercury a little bit of a malefic
Yes,
description.
we got some nice words
He's
here.
not the nicest to Mercury.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this one was nice. This he was very
Mhm.
polite here, effective, active, and well informed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. For all
Actually, I
our
mean,
Wednesday
effective and
friends.
active may not always be favorable traits. Sometimes you want inactivity. Effectiveness is always good, but besides the point. Yeah.
Mm.
Very nice to Mercury here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about everyone who's live, say the day you were born or the
Yeah.
hour if you know it. Let's see where people are
Mhm.
coming
And
from.
I mean, the ruler of the planetary hour and its
Mm.
position in your natal chart is like do not sleep on that. Like that's huge. Like that's like the ruler of your ascendant almost, like in a way, you know?
Yeah.
Very, very important, very important thing.
Yeah. I mean, I always talk about the Hour Lord with people in their chart. Abu Ali al-Khayyat, who was a early medieval author, quoted Hermes. So purportedly, maybe we're not 100% sure, but he quoted Hermes in saying that the Lord of the planetary hour of the birth holds a similar role to the Lord of the ascendant in supplying the native with a sense of fulfillment, um, activity in the world, feeling driven to find prosperity and happiness in that place if it's positioned well. And if the Hour Lord isn't positioned well, that will bring, essentially down or dampen or make harder the quality of the native's life generally. Um, and again, it makes sense because like we look at the ascendant and we perfect it, and then if you look at the planetary hour lord and you do the orb turn, which is like running through the 7 planets in a yearly sequence, just like with the perfections, they really layer together really well because you end up getting a zodiacal sequence with perfections and then a planetary 7 sequence with the Lord of the Hour. And they work really well together. Um, Definitely shout out to Dr. Ali Alomi, who's put out some really cool translations and work with the Lord of the Orb. But yeah, I first read about that when I read Dyke's translation of Persian Nativities 4, the big fat green book. Um, and that's just it's a really cool technique, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense too, right? Like the quality of time independent of the external world, right? Like,
Hmm.
I mean, I guess it is a little bit dependent on the external world because it starts with sunrise, but still, like that principle of time itself having planetary qualities.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's like very important and something that I personally definitely didn't give enough credence to like early on in my practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's easy to kind of like dismiss or like glance over,
Mm.
but it's a good one.
Yeah. Well,
Cool.
um,
Wow.
that's about it. That is it.
Yep, that's all for today, folks. Um,
Next
this
time we
was-
have big chapter coming.
yeah, we have some big chapters coming up. I
This is
mean,
like the meat. This is what we've all waited for. Like he's given all the
yeah.
bites, and now we're stringing all the beads onto the necklace.
Yes. And
Mm.
then after the necklace is made, then we have the houses coming
Hmm.
up. And that occupies like a lot of the text,
Yeah.
like a big portion of it.
I mean, I don't
So
know how we're still figuring out how we'll do it, but like it's more than one episode per house with the amount of information that there is if we talked about it all. So we're gonna figure out probably the best way to go about it. Because there's it's very dense. There's a lot of information there. So yeah.
yeah, but good information. Good
Oh yeah.
information.
Juicy,
I
juicy, juicy.
personally, one of the worst things that the 20th century did to astrology was diminish the meaning of the houses. I say that with my chest.
Oh yeah, it
I
destroyed them. It took
Yeah,
away all of the accidental significations of planets and just focused on the universal nature. Like Venus is just love and pleasure and beauty, but she's not. She is
she's
whatever Taurus and Libra and Pisces are doing in your chart in their houses.
exactly. And like the describing limiting your descriptions of an archetype to human traits is not good. There is so much analogy in the world that is not bound to humanity. You can
Mm,
describe something with an animal, with the way that water drops form on a leaf in the morning, you know? Like there's
mhm.
so much out there that
Yeah,
you can describe without just
right.
talking about being laughable or
Mhm.
fun.
And it's
Yeah.
like they have a place, like those like universal significations, they maybe work like really well in horary. When you just have a chart for like a quick little thing, that Mars is going to really aptly describe, whatever person or topic you're looking at, and it's like you can talk about that they're irascible and angry and impulsive or whatever, right? But like when you're looking at someone's whole life, you have to drop it into the house and talk about what that archetype is doing in this like web of things jumbling and jumping all around. You have to ground it in the houses or it doesn't go anywhere. We're just talking
Yeah.
about in here, and there's so much out there. So,
Right. Right. And that's exactly it because astrology isn't just in here.
hmm
Astrology is out there and your
right.
chart shows the big out
Everything.
there, the big empty. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, uh-huh.
So look at your houses, damn it.
Yes,
But
and get ready for Mercuranians talking about it. And if you have questions, let
yeah.
us know. We're
hmm
here. We
Drop
got
a
you.
comment. Also, Khalil gave us they said they were born July 2000, midnight, on Moon Day and Mars hour. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, you're a nocturnal nativity, so that's nice. You got the moon having some extra power in the rulership of your chart, and you're a Cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of lunar energy coming out there for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sympathetic.
And
That's
even
nice.
Mars is insect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it'll all depend on what the ascendant and where they're sitting, but those
Right.
facts alone, there's some strong lunar nocturnal themes going on there, which again, it's like that's where it's like, well, we can't just talk about the moon. We have to know where Cancer's sitting,
Right.
where the moon is sitting.
Well, and
Right.
that's one of the things about the luminaries. Having a luminary ruling your ascendant that's like
Mm,
so unique is
right.
because like you are only focused on you.
Yeah. There's
Like,
no homozone area or sphere of activity you're kind of partly involved with as much.
yeah, yeah.
There will be the ascensional and antitia, like hourly equivalent places, but that's not really like a homozone.
It's much different. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a very interesting difference between
Right.
the luminaries and the rest.
But it's also really interesting to think that the world is a moon. Like the world is Cancer rising.
Hmm.
And like that just makes so much sense though. Like
Yeah,
it's the most physical. The moon, we're all incorruptible and changing and waxing and waning.
I love
Right.
the moon. I love her so much.
She's beautiful. Uh, we are two water moons. We could talk about the moon all day
I
long.
know. I love her so much. Like she's so
She's beautiful
beautiful.
right now, waxing though. When she's
I
setting, it's like her crescent's
know.
just she's
What
she's hit
is
first quarter now though. She's really getting big. We're getting there to this next eclipse.
but what is your favorite? We'll make this our closing
Okay.
remark. What is your favorite lunar phase?
Well, I'm partial because I'm like, I really do like mine.
That's funny. Okay.
I like third quarter though too. Do you mean by transit or like energy for people, like the personality archetypes?
I was thinking just like in general.
In
I didn't
general,
have any, yeah.
in
I can
general,
tell you
probably
mine, like for
yours,
certain.
first quarter.
Oh, no. My all-time favorite, waxing crescent moon,
Mm,
after the first visibility,
yeah.
after the new moon, when
Mm.
you can see her and it's dusk and
By
you
for
can see,
visibility, seeing the waxing crescent is amazing. And seeing it
oh,
when it's crescent in Taurus after the new year is like
yes.
nothing else.
I know. I can't wait for the one in Cancer because
Mm,
Sirius is right there too, which is just like
mm.
so beautiful. Yeah. Also, I will say, the astronomy iPhone lock screen, the stars behind the moon literally
Wait,
change.
they update?
Yes. And the
Wow.
moon like visually waxes and wanes
Wow. I
on
don't
your
have that on.
screen.
That's really cool though,
It's
actually.
I love it so much. I love it so much.
I'll have to put
So,
that on then.
yeah, I definitely recommend it.
Yeah. Well, to answer, probably Wax and Gibbous is my favorite.
Okay.
Um, I
I like
like
waxing gibbous too.
I like third quarter though because it is the time when you have to make action to step into the balsamic phase. Like you're aware that that spiritual transformation is coming, and you're making action to like have preservation to like make longevity to make sure that the seed will be reborn. And like there's that crisis of action with both of the squares, but like with the third quarter, the last square, it's like there's this extra like almost existential spiritual mission that I think comes for people, and then by progression when that phase kicks in, that just feels really like I'm almost done, and it's like that balsamic, the final eighth is like very much like making that preparation happen, but like the third quarter is the realization, and I think there's a really spiritual of awareness that can often kick in around that time.
Yeah, there's this cognition or cognizance of like needing to shed your skin
Mm-hmm.
or like go under the earth, right?
Right. Yeah.
And like needing to ensure that things will withstand your
Mm-hmm.
absence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, there we go. I hope you
there we
guys enjoyed
go.
it. This was a really fun episode, actually. We had lots of laughs today.
Yes,
Maybe it's just because the
yes.
moon's in Leo.
Yes, gonna be enclosed by benefics for 5 whole
True.
degrees today.
That's been a really, really cute. And yeah, where's she? She's at 20 right now. Oh,
Oh, is she
it's
separating from
oh
Venus yet?
no, she's at 2003, Venus is at 2022. Oh, Venus is at 2022.
Oh,
Um, but yeah, no, she's almost enclosed within like probably 40
yeah.
minutes from now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Use this.
Yeah,
Enjoy.
there's a really, really cute election. And especially with Jupiter helically rising right now, like there's a lot of power in the sky to actually,
And
I was just
and
gonna say like,
Venus,
oh,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say like as heavy as eclipses are, I mean Mercury's retrograde, so it's not the best time. But like there's some nice supportive energy to like if you have to like do something like tonight, tomorrow are really good days. Even the day after with Jupiter kind of rising is really powerful.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And also Venus is applying to sextile Jupiter. That's
Mm,
Venus's next aspect. So that makes
yeah.
this benefic enclosure like extra potent.
Right. So Jupiter's collecting their light. That's what's
Yeah.
happening tonight. Jupiter's collecting them. So,
As Jupiter emerges from the
right.
beams.
I mean, you just wonder like how that's translating into manifestation on the Earth right now. Like
Uh-huh.
Moon and Venus are giving their light to Jupiter, and then he's like rising in Aries. Like it's just some really powerful someone is gonna be born right now. That's for sure.
Yeah. I hope it, oh wait, it can't all be angular though.
No, probably
Gotta be
no.
cadent or succeedent because it covers all three modalities. So something's gotta be
Yeah.
cadent.
Well, if the Venus Jupiter.
My laptop is about to die, by the
Okay.
way.
All right, guys. We love you all. Happy Venus night, or it's happy Venus day. Happy Mars night. If the sun is setting for you. But thank you all for tuning in. We've still got a bunch of you that stayed all the way, so thank you for being with us. And good luck finishing up your eclipse season and your Mercury retrograde. We'll see you before probably next week before the next eclipse, hopefully, maybe. But definitely before
Let you know.
Hermes is direct. So
Follow us on Twitter for
yeah.
updates on when we'll be
Yeah.
live.
Yeah. All
Cool.
right. We'll talk to you guys
Mercuranians
soon.
out.
Bye,
Don't forget to like and
everyone.
subscribe,
Oh, yeah.
please.
Helps us a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks. And comment if you liked it.